Word on the street is that the Pittsburgh Steelers plan or intend on signing free agent quarterback formerly of the Tennessee Titans and Miami Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill. These rumors been speculating all morning. We're going to get into where these rumors came from, how true they may or may not be, and then we'll look at some stats to see what the Steelers could expect to see if they ended up indeed signing Ryan Tannehill. Please hit that like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell. With that being said, let's get into this. So rumors started speculating and spreading and all that stuff early this morning. The possibility of Ryan Tannehill as the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. And it kind of started off with Mike Garafolo. He put out a tweet and also an article on NFLcom referencing some expectations and thoughts of where the quarterbacks are going to go to. He tagged Tom Pelissero and Ian Rapoport on this tweet, kind of saying that they were all involved in this. So let's look at what this article is. So this is at NFL.com. It says, assessing intriguing quarterback market as 2024 NFL season nears, who could be headed where? Now, again, this states right here that this is published by Ian Rapoport, Tom Pelissero, and Mike Garafolo. The premise of this article states, the quarterback movement has been the theme of the last few off seasons, and that should be the case once again in 2024. Who lands where in free agency? Who gets traded? How many quarterback needy teams are lining up for the top passer in the 2024 draft? With the 2024 NFL Scouting Combine just 2 weeks away and the free agent negotiating window set to open 1 month from today, March 11th, here's where things stand based on conversations with numerous NFL sources. So these are the guys that have the inside knowledge. Does that give a little bit more validity to the claims that the Pittsburgh Steelers could be, targeting Ryan Tannehill? Well, let's look into it. Let's scroll down to what they say about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The article states, after 2 years of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph in the quarterback room together, expect significant changes at the position in Pittsburgh. And I'm going to interject real quick right here on this. I do think that there is that possibility. Art Rooney was giving his interview tour. The main thing that he talked about when it came to the Pittsburgh Steelers is improving the passing game, specifically the quarterback play. It wasn't there. He did speak highly of Mason Rudolph, but as everybody knows, and including Art Rooney himself and Mike Tomlin and anybody who's spoken on the situation, is that Mason Rudolph is a free agent. Now, if he's going to go test free agency and see what he can get out there in the open market, the Pittsburgh Steelers have to plan for his departure. They need to bring somebody else in. It can't be just Kenny Pickett. And, I don't think anybody wants to see Mitch Trubisky. Me personally, I would prefer Mason Rudolph. He's a little bit younger than Ryan Tannehill. And in a game that is, what have you done for me lately? Mason Rudolph has done more than Ryan Tannehill as of late. Let's continue this. Trubisky is under contract for 2 more seasons, but he has no guaranteed money left on his deal and has a $1 million roster bonus due in March 15th. So he could be released soon. Rudolph, who will be a free agent next month, has indicated he's interested in a fresh start after 6 seasons with the team that drafted him in the 3rd round in 2018. I wonder where that indication has come from. I haven't heard that, but then again, these are the guys on the inside. Maybe perhaps, that's something coming from his agent to increase his stock, increase his value, even if it is to go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he's going to say, if you guys want me, you guys are going to have to pay me. And that pay is not necessarily going to come with the guarantee of the start. But the most likely, if you're going to bring in a quarterback and pay him $11, $12 million a year, which I'm not saying that's what Rudolph is going to get or deserves, but if that's his asking point at this point, and the Steelers aren't certain that he's going to be the guy that is going to win out the battle against Kenny Pickett, do you make that move? You're going to pay a guy that amount of money to be on the bench, or the possibility to be on the bench. So if he decides to go, the Steelers have to do something. Ryan Tannehill does kind of make sense to a certain extent because of the acquisition of Arthur Smith, although it's not one that I would prefer. I do see the dots kind of lining up in that direction, but let's continue this. Pickett, who sat behind Rudolph late in the season and into the playoffs after recovering from a high ankle sprain, will enter the offseason as QB1 again. But head coach Mike Tomlin has made clear there will be competition. With new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, the expectation is Pittsburgh Steelers will explore adding free agent Ryan Tannehill, who's had his best years with the Titans while Smith was the OC there. So my question is, and I know that at the beginning of the article, it said that this is based on, their information and what they've heard and talked to and stuff like that. Is this really coming from somebody, within the organization, or is this just somebody kind of pointing the dots there, similar to what I said earlier, where you have Arthur Smith, a guy that hasn't really been known of developing a quarterback. He has a different type of offense. This is something that's completely changed. And when you look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers were doing under Matt Canada, and as of recent, it was JV plays, and they weren't running, an NFL offense. This is going to be an NFL offense. There's going to be a lot of adjusting, especially those that have only played under Matt Canada and only seen his playbook. And that includes Kenny Pickett. So I can see Arthur Smith wanting to bring in a quarterback that is familiar with his offense, is familiar with his philosophy, knows what is expected of him from Arthur Smith. And I'm not surprised that the rumor is the quarterback that played the best under his watch as offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans. But let's look at, Ryan Tannehill and what he's done as of late, because like I said, this is a what have you done for me lately kind of league. Well, this is from Pro Football Reference. First and foremost, Ryan Tannehill, he's up there in age. He's 35. He lost his position last year to Will Levis. There was an obvious, step up and improvement in that quarterback position. You can see the difference there. Sure, was there some mistakes and maybe perhaps rookie issues? Yeah, of course, there's going to be that. But when Will Levis was on and he was doing his thing and he was on his game, you can see the difference in the type of quarterback and the potential that they have. Ryan Tannehill, who was a first-round pick quarterback, 8th overall to the Miami Dolphins. But that was back in 2012. He's no spring chicken, so to speak. He's up there in age. He's, I think, 35, going to be 36, sometime either before the season or as the season goes. That's definitely not the future. And I think if the Pittsburgh Steelers go in this way, then you're probably looking at a draft pick at the quarterback position. Maybe not early on, first round or so, but I wouldn't be surprised third, maybe even second if somebody falls in the right place. Because Ryan Tannehill and his age and his production as of recent isn't somebody that you can look at and say, this is the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is a stopgap guy, a bridge guy. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going back for a bridge guy, well, that kind of tells you that they maybe aren't super confident in the quarterback that they were hoping to cross that bridge in Kenny Pickett, and maybe are looking for another quarterback to bring along on that bridge. But let's look at Ryan Tannehill's stats. 2019 was obviously his best season. He was 31 at the time. He was with the Tennessee Titans. This was his first year in Tennessee. So I think that also has a lot to do with some things here. Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator ranging 2 NFL seasons between 2019 and 2020. And during that time, it's kind of when he started picking up as a quarterback, having some of his best, seasons. In 2019, he started in 10 games, went 7 for 3, 70% completion, 2,742 yards with 22 touchdowns in that short time to 6 interceptions. I mean, he played very well. But for me, when it comes to a new quarterback playing somewhere else or an offensive coordinator starting out, I think there's an adjustment time for NFL defenses to get to know what your strengths and weaknesses are as an offense. And I think that may have played a huge role when it came to the pairing of Arthur Smith and Ryan Tannehill. They were different, but they were good. They made it to an AFC championship. And could that have played a role? Maybe. The next year in 2020 under Arthur Smith, Tennessee went 11-5. Tannehill started all 16 games. He was 315 completions for with 481 attempts. So his percentage went a little bit down, but it was still fairly well, 65.5%. Threw for 3,819 yards, 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Now, those are some pretty good numbers there for a quarterback. But then again, this was also 2019 and 2020, a few years back. The following year, in 2021, Ryan Tannehill had another year that was great, but this was under another offensive coordinator. On 12-5, 357 completions, 531 attempts. He was 67.2% complete, so he went up a little bit. He threw for over 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. See, I think at this point, they're starting to figure out Mr. Tannehill a little bit, and this offense that he's been running and what, his likes and dislikes within the Tennessee offense and within the players that he was playing with. 2022, he played 12 games. He went 6 for 6. His completion rating was at 65.2. He's a fairly accurate quarterback, over 64% for majority of his entire career. I think there's only been a couple of years where he's dipped down, and that was early in his career, below that. But since 2018, Ryan Tannehill has been over 64% accurate every single season. So he's a very accurate quarterback. In 2022, he threw for over 2,500 yards. He had 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So the interceptions to touchdown ratio is getting up there. And in last season, he started in 8 games, went 3 for 5, 64.8% completion rating with just over 1,600 yards, only had 4 touchdowns throughout that span to 7 interceptions. So completely just did not do well, kind of fell off that point. Now, I understand the connection with Arthur Smith, possibly the comfortability that he may have. and those kind of things. But I'm not excited about this if this ends up being the guy. I do think that we would probably see, better quarterback play, but Father Time gets everybody. And I think that if you look at the stats and what he was able to do, what do you guys think about this possible acquisition? Would you like the fact that the Steelers bring in, somebody familiar with the offense, somebody who's played in a all-pro level, especially when he was paired with this offensive coordinator, even though it's been some time? Or do you think that this is some sort of smokescreen? Maybe perhaps to influence Mason Rudolph into signing sooner. They put this out there and say, hey, we gave you an offer, either take it, or if you're not, we're going to go shopping. And if we find somebody else in the meantime, well, you're just going to be out of luck, my man. So is this some sort of push to get Mason Rudolph to sign faster? Maybe. We'll see. Everything's on the table. Either way, I don't think it really looks too good for Kenny Pickett. If the Pittsburgh Steelers bring in Mason Rudolph and they pay him, and they pay him as a starting quarterback or somebody competing for a starting quarterback position, that's not a good look, for Kenny. And if they bring in Ryan Tannehill, a guy who played his best ball with Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator, a guy that also asked to be released last season because he was no longer going to be the starting quarterback, a guy that expects to be a starting quarterback and wants to be the starting quarterback. And if not, you can probably find yourself with another disgruntled situation. You really don't want that in your quarterback room, right? So if Ryan Tannehill is signed, and you're Arthur Smith, and you have Kenny Pickett, who you don't know, who statistically was historically the worst quarterback in the NFL since the merger, or a guy that was an all-pro while you were an offensive coordinator who knows your offense, knows your playbook, is a guy that you can trust as a leader and a person to go into battle. So I think this probably could be the worst news for Kenny Pickett. Let me know what you guys think about that. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Appreciate everybody watching. Peace.